when this news first broke about Kenny Golladay signing with the New York Giants, I think everybody was so disappointed, especially in the fantasy industry, was so disappointed for him because you know that he's not going to get the extra boost in targets that you were hoping for. Daniel Jones is the quarterback, very sketchy at best as far as his quarterback skills go. You have dealing with Jason Garrett, definitely not revered as one of the most creative offensive minds out there. So I think people are so disappointed, myself included, about Kenny Golladay from a fantasy standpoint going to the Giants that you kind of lost track of what the Giants have in place now. Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard. Those are three very good receivers. By the way, they all complement each other. Sterling Shepard gets to go back into the slot. Darius Slayton can be the big man play role on the other outside to Kenny Golladay. You have Evan Ingram still. Regardless, Kyle Rudolph's he did sign his deal, so he's okay. He's gonna be a blocker for them. But you have Evan Ingram who's going to be there to stretch the seam. And we'll talk about something else too in a minute on Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard and something I've heard. It makes no sense to me. And then you have Saquon Barkley. The question is going to be, can that offensive line improve? But you do have some young talent on that offensive line that would suggest some sort of improvement. The thing where it all falls apart is Daniel Jones. And a lot of people are using that now. They're starting to look at the Giants like, well, does this mean Daniel Jones has to become fantasy relevant? I'm like, look, he's nothing more than he ever was, which is a DFS flyer. He's nothing else. He's nothing else outside of that. A once in a while matchup dependent streamer. You're not drafting Daniel Jones in redraft leagues, and I'm not even trying to touch him that much in Dynasty because honestly, I don't believe for 1 second that Daniel Jones, Jason Garrett, or David Gettleman are on this organization next year. I don't believe for 1 second that's going to happen because now that you made this signing with Kenny Golladay, it's playoff or bust. And you know what? I don't think they make the postseason. I think Dallas is going to beat them out, and I think only one team from the NFC East is going to the postseason this year. So I think you're going to see all of them disappear. And you know what? From a fantasy standpoint, when it comes to Kenny Golladay, I hate it. I don't think he even gets 100 targets with Daniel Jones. And so you're going to have to reach the point where you better get 9+ touchdowns. Otherwise, this is a guy who ADP-wise, he's going to be drafted as a mid-level wide receiver 2. I think he's a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. I put him in the same category as Juju Smith-Schuster. That's where I have Kenny Golladay. Where do you think?
I definitely don't agree with that. I cannot take Kenny Golladay as a wide receiver 3. I think he's at least a receiver 2 and a borderline receiver 1. I think he got paid a lot of money. And whether or not you hate Daniel Jones or not, I'm not a Daniel Jones fan at all. Most people know that. But I think that he did throw 28 touchdowns his rookie year, and he did have some big numbers fantasy-wise. He had a 5-touchdown game. I think Kenny Golladay is going to be featured predominantly on the offense. I think in the red zone, he'll continue to be utilized. I think as long as he's healthy, that Kenny Golladay is a receiver I definitely want on my team. I think his talent will transcend a lot of things. I know Daniel Jones is the most accurate guy, but that's where having a 6'4" guy who can go up and get it and making contested catches is going to be a benefit. You talk about all the playmakers on the Giants, talk about decent offensive line. You look at that division, that defense, those defenses aren't that good. Washington's defense is supposed to be really good. We'll see. But the rest of the division doesn't scare me in any kind of way. I think the Giants could be definitely a playoff contender in a pathetic division. But I also think that you look at the offensive talent that can fall into place. There's a lot of teams that win despite their quarterbacks sometimes, and I think Daniel Jones has to be great for Kenny Golladay to eat and for that offense to be, humming. I'm not a Jason Garrett fan at all. I don't think he's creative, but I do think Des Bryant ate under him. I do think the number one receiver typically got the ball. So I don't have.
They didn't have any other weapons though.
I'm not a big Sterling Shepard fan. Is he really better than Cole Beasley?
Yes. That's not.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
So let me ask your perspective. I don't think Sterling Shepard's anything special.
First time I got to use that alarm, actually, this show, I should have probably used it earlier when we were talking about Cam Akers. Yes, Sterling Shepard is better than Cole Beasley as a slot receiver. Production wise, I think they're both throw pretty good. But when Sterling Shepard gets to be a slot receiver, he's one of the best slot receivers in the league. All you have to do is look at his production to see that. So yeah, 100% he's better than Cole Beasley. You want to talk about Darius Slayton is infinitely better than Terrence Williams. The only thing you can get me on is Jason Witten compared to Evan Ingram, but still Evan Ingram's a very good tight end in his own right. Running back wise, Saquon, assuming he's healthy, is just as much of a stud as Ezekiel Elliott or anybody else they had back there before then. So no, completely disagree. And Tony Romo is infinitely better quarterback than Daniel Jones could ever hope to be.